trying to his name now.
Doncic.
Yeah. Luca. Yeah, I liked Luca. I watched him play last night a little bit.
Yes, and I already had a conversation with his mother. So you can see the interview. They translated.
Nice. Yes. Well, he's a good basketball player. I don't know how they did it in Slovenia, how they got somebody as good as him, but he's tearing up the NBA.
Yeah.
I could talk basketball all day. So.
Oh, really? David, I'm very, very happy and honored that you and thank you both that we can talk. For the beginning, I will tell you maybe for 5-10 minutes I will not speak very good English. When I will forget that I must talk good English, then it will be okay. Sure. And before we starting, Borut did me this meditation. So my voice changed. I still put myself in me, all this feeling, and I want to stay there, stay a little bit more and to feel it, And I didn't know before this word.
Yeah. Did he spill some oils on you too? Yeah, you smell good, huh?
Yes, and that was Janis Joplin. I think I have this feeling to explode it, and breathing and everything. I will ask you, I don't know a lot. I read your book and I will start in Slovene, that you will hear Slovene language because it is hvaležnost. It's thank you. Gratitude.
Yeah. Oh, see, yes.
Yes, I will, because I'm gratitude to you and to you, Borut. And listen Slovene language.
Yes.
Spomni se, da je hvaležnost bližnica in tokrat ti bom izjemoma ponudil bližnico. Če boš storil le eno stvar, potem se dnevno vadi v hvaležnosti in to bo urilo tvoje srce na najlepši način. Zakaj vse si lahko hvaležen? Vsak dan začni z besedami. Hvaležen sem. I'm express,
Oh.
And you
I feel it. I don't even have to understand the language. I can feel it. I can feel the words. And I noticed that the Slovenian version of the book is much thicker than the English version. The translation. I don't know if Borut added a bunch more of his own words in there, but it's a lot thicker. The version you have is much more, it's much thicker. Yes.
That's just the paper thickness, David. It's nothing is added. No sugar added.
Oh, okay.
It's much better if it's no sugar added.
Yes.
I also don't like it sugar and make it that the book, there is so many things that you must have focus. And how I read it, it's very focused and very simple. And thank you. You did a good job. I didn't read the original, but you did a very good job. So tell that, because we are already starting. So
I meant to do a proper formal introduction, but necessarily it will just be 1 minute anyway. So I'm Borut Lisjak, and I'm an intuitive healer and author, and I'm honored and grateful to have two brilliant magical guests with me here. And one is Zvezdana Mlakar, who is an actress and talk show host, and the other is David Elliott, who is healer and teacher and author, and used to be an actor.
And used to be an actor. Yes. Yeah. See there.
I feel it. This love, I really feel it. Do you feel it?
Yes.
When I read your book and I do exercises, you see, and I read here, I like to write down the book. And I said, oh my God, he was an actor. So he knows how we work, what we do with our imagination. So tell me, please, your story. How are you starting? Because now, when I'm starting to think and read the book like Healing or Neil Donald Walsh or Tolle or Edgar Tolle or Greg Braden or something like that.
Yes,
so
yes.
I'm starting to, I'm all the time thinking, but we are doing this in the rehearsal. It's so many things and we don't know.
No.
So tell me your story. How you started? Where you were?
I should share the screen and show you my old actor reel.
Yeah.
You can send that later.
I send that later. You can watch it. Actually, acting. Well, the Cliff Notes tying the acting in is the whole reason the healing work happened to begin with. I mean, I finished college. I was in Kentucky, and didn't know. I got an MBA degree. I was going on to college, but I knew I didn't know what I wanted to do, and was restless. And a great uncle said, exact words. He goes, "Come on, young man. I got to get you out of Kentucky. I'm going to take you out west." And he had left. He was an electrician, and he had moved out here in the 50s and raised his children and family and had lots of work. But he moved back to Kentucky in the late 70s, 80s, maybe early 80s to retire. And so he needed to come out and see his children who all lived out here. And he brought me with him and kind of introduced me to Southern California. I mean, I'm, big eyes looking around, and I had these cousins who were there. All his kids were like musicians, and his grandkids, actors, musicians, and they were like, "Well, you don't need to go get a job. Just stay here and act and be a model. You can make a lot of money. You could be, just don't even go, don't go get a job, And I'm like, actor, I never even thought about it, but they planted the seed. And so then with my uncle, he also had a son who lived and worked for IBM in San Jose, which is north of Los Angeles, up by more San Francisco. I went up there. We were seeing all the kids, and they said, "Oh, there's a company next door they're looking for somebody exactly like you." So I took this job. It was in agriculture. So my undergraduate or my degrees in college was agriculture, agronomy, studying plants and how life and cells, and then I got a double major as I was getting towards the end of graduating from a 4-year college with business administration, and then I went on and got a master's degree in business, specialization in marketing. Again, I just was going to school, so I didn't have to think about what I really wanted to do. But anyway, I took this job with this company. They were in a hybrid vegetable seed. I go into a grocery store. I know the name of every bell pepper and tomato and watermelon still, because this company was basically making all these vegetables. And so they sent me to South Florida, where they had a big research farm down south of Miami. And so, my head spinning. I'm like, first time really, moving away from my home and Miami. I was like, it was still on its way up as far as tourism and everything goes. It was more retirement back then, but this was before South Beach exploded, and Miami Vice and all that stuff. But when I got there, almost the first people I met were photographers, and they're like, "Hey," I guess I was a little well, age, you know, can wear you down a little bit. But back then, anyway, the photographers go, hey, you can make a lot of money doing commercials. Let us do your pictures. We can connect you with agents. You know, I didn't know, but I was like, oh, why not? I'm hearing the actor thing again. So I started doing commercials. And then I started, I met this acting teacher. I knew there was something. I'd watch, you know, actors, and the ones that were getting all the jobs, I would see their demo tapes and be like, what are they doing? They're like, you know, there's like some magic happening with them. And I didn't know how to do that. And so I started taking acting classes and studying with this lady who really helped. I mean, it was a spiritual process. She helped me start to get in touch with my emotions and how to feel and express, which, you know, growing up playing sports and the way I grew up, my emotions were like, you know, I could smile, but I didn't know how to really feel and feel deeply into my emotions. And so that put me on this journey of then wanting more. And my agent in Florida was like, no, you have to move to New York. New York will develop you, and it'll, you know, it'll help you grow as an artist. But then I met an agent and casting people who were in LA, and they're like, no, you need to come to LA. So I knew I had family, relatives. I'd already been to LA, and I was like, yeah, I think LA. The agent in Florida is like, I'm telling you, LA, you'll just fall into life, and it's so comfortable there. New York will beat you up, but it'll mold you as an actor. Anyway, I took the LA route. And so as soon as, I mean, shortly after I moved here, I lived in Miami a little less than 3 years. And when I moved here, it was in what's known as the harmonic convergence, which I didn't know. This is all after the fact, but July 1987. And so, you know, it was kind of a spiritual moment on the planet based on, you know, these alignments and whatever with the whole solar system. But people started grabbing me after, like, I don't know, about 6 months, and they would tell me I was this healer. And I thought, man, these people are nuts. This new age, these people, these new agers in Southern California, that must be true. And anyway, it kept happening. My ego would always want it that they saw me in this acting job, or I had 2 or 3 national commercials running when I moved here. It was never about being an actor. It was always about, you know, the healing. And finally, I like threw my hands up and said, all right, God, you need to send me some answers. I don't know what this healer thing is about. And, you know, very quickly, I mean, almost as soon as I did it, my phone rang, and one of my best friends said she was in Sedona, Arizona, and she had just walked on fire with this healer, and I had to meet him. And I go, I don't know, I guess I must need to meet him because I need to find out what a healer is. And she goes, well, it just so happens he's coming to Los Angeles in a couple of days, and you should meet him. I go, okay, set it up. And I met him. And I mean, you know, the first conversation with him, as soon as I met him, he goes, hello, brother, we meet again. I go, what? And he goes, oh yeah, I've known you many lifetimes. You're a healer. You're clairaudient. I go, what's that? And he goes, well, you hear the answer to people's questions. You hear deeply into their soul. I mean, I was kind of like, okay. And, but it was, what was happening is I had also been in a relationship, and it was with an actress who I even knew from Florida, who had moved out here the same time as me. And it was kind of breaking up, and I was in pain. But in the relationship with her, my hearing blasted open, all of it. Like I could hear all of her thoughts, experience her dreams at night, and wouldn't even be trying. And to make it worse, So it was just like so open. I would go in for an audition or a callback, and if there's a bunch of people sitting there, I would be hearing their thoughts like they were talking to me, you know, and hearing whatever they thought about me, which it escalated to one time maybe a couple times, but one specific time I walked in on an audition and I heard, we're wasting our time. Why are we doing this? We already have it cast. And it was, I heard this guy's name, this actor's name. So then I just turned around and walked out, and my agent called me and said, well, the casting people are on the phone. They're like, what did you do? You just walked in and turned and walked out. And I said, well, they told me they already had the role cast, and it's this guy, C. Thomas Howell, and he had, you know, we're wasting our time. And the agent said, hold on. She switched over and said, he said, you guys told him it, you know, and my agent already knew some things about me. And I guess they told her, we didn't say anything, but it's true. How does he know that? And
Oh my God.
and the agent said, well, okay. So basically, she knew that I was very intuitive and felt things, and that there was this whole other side of me. So at that point, you know, I even shortly thereafter started putting actor healer on my resume. And so every time I'd be brought in for something, they'd be like, da da da. Now tell us about the healer thing. And then people would all want to, people would want to come to see me for healing work. And it started just kind of phasing a lot. I still pursued acting for a while longer, but it kind of, the healing work just took over. And this guy, Tim, he that first literally 15 minutes, he said, I'm not your teacher. I'm just a messenger. I've, you know, known you many lifetimes. You're going to be doing this work. And that's when I said, no. But in my mind, I realized, I was like, oh, these people that are grabbing me, I'll just, and then this is what I started doing. I'll just say, no, you got the wrong person, but I know who you're looking for. And for 2 years, I would just send them all to him. And each month he'd come to my house in LA, and I'd have 25, 30 people in a group ready to see him, and he'd work with them individually. And then many months I would take a group of people out to Sedona who were already ready for some healing. But he said, you know, your gift is much more refined than mine. He goes, you know, he called himself a mystic clairvoyant, and he could see things, but he couldn't hear. And he said, the one thing that he said that I blocked for a number of years because it didn't make sense. He just said, you taught me this meditation in India over 2,000 years ago. And at that point, I was like, you know, about to throw up laughing. So, you know, I was like, I don't know, you know, and he said, do you at least want to try the meditation? And I mean, this was, 1989, I think, roughly. So I was paying him $100, and as an actor, that was a lot of money. So I go, okay, yeah, I better get my money's worth. And so I did the meditation. Oh my God, the whole time I was breathing, I thought I was levitating off the bed where I was laying. It was like lightning bolts shooting through me. I was seeing this whole vision of things. And anyway, when I was done, I couldn't get it out of my mind. And he said, I'm going to be doing a retreat in Sedona, a month or so from now. You're invited if you want to come. And I was like, oh, okay, let me think about it. Well, again, I couldn't get it out of my mind. So I went out to Sedona, and literally, I was there. He was pretty much kind of like a gypsy or a vagabond. He would he'd kind of collect people as he traveled around to different places. And so there were 5, 6, 7 people there, but I was getting the royal treatment. And, you know, they took me to a hot springs, and they were just floating me in the water as I was breathing, and had a really profound experience. But I found out later I was the only person paying for the retreat. So that's the reason why I was getting such special treatment, you know. So anyway, that's kind of the big beginning of how it all started. And, you know, I was very reluctant. I didn't want to stop acting. That was my passion. And he would just smile and say, do the healing work. It's going to open all the doors. And, you know, like I say, eventually, a couple years into it, he died in a car crash, tragically. And all these people kind of turned around and said, hey, you know, you got to help us. We know you were who we're looking for. I mean, they had good experiences with him. But anyway, the next thing you know, I was seeing 40 people a week and didn't have so much time for auditions and whatnot. So
that's very funny, because now I remember that some of these spirit, как се рече, духовни учители, spiritual teacher said to me, asked me seriously before 3-4 years, when you will stop acting? And I said, why? No, that's my passion, because to leave to go to another person, the feelings, and maybe in some way I hiding my feelings, but now it's a really beautiful journey. I learned every day, every minute, and I'm very thankful. But I want to tell you, when do you have this idea? You know, because I tried now this breathing and do.
Yeah.
Because this is it's a miracle. The secret is in the body. It is like that. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, the biggest obstacle, and I tell people sometimes, if you think too much, all your hair, if it's a guy, all your hair can fall out. So look at Borat. You know, so the biggest thing with the breathing is, you know, and the biggest obstacle is to get people out of their head, you know, because they're living, you know, and you take all this technology, all this stimulation, you know, again, Borat and his computer AI stuff. It's like, I mean, I'm using him as an example, but not really about the hair. Even though it's really easy to put those oils on his head, you know, up there. But the biggest thing is if we can get people out of this computer and more into the heart in particular, and these other ductless gland chakra areas where they're holding memories and trauma and pain, and you get them into that energetically where they're not thinking, but they're feeling, then those clearings can happen. I mean, that first time I did the breathing with Tim, when I was 5.5, my mom, there were 5 of us kids, and we lost the baby boy. He stood up in the high chair. He was 1.5 years old, and my mom had given all of us kids our, you know, lunch, and she was giving him his last and was about to put the high chair little tabletop on it. And he stood up just as she was turning around. She said, you know, sit down, you're going to fall. And he fell and hit his forehead on the counter and died. He had a brain hemorrhage. And so, you know, again, 5.5, really sensitive. I remember that day in slow motion, but I like kind of breathed in and held the trauma and even my mom's sadness, you know, in days after. And so as an actor in the early days, and I think this organically is what drove me to acting, was to clear those emotions. You know, I knew there was something about the emotions and acting and spirit and the energy that could help me. Well, the first time I did that breathing, it came out of me like a tornado, and literally I saw it as this gray sadness energy just swirling out, and especially my throat. Well, I felt different from that day forward. Even people around me would be like, "You look different. What happened to you? Wow." You know, and anyway, I knew there was something to, so we could do psychology. I could, you know, talk about, you know,
like
forever.
I know everything.
Yeah.
I realize everything.
Right.
But it was sad inside, and I didn't know what to do, how to put it out.
Right. That's right. And that's what I realized with the breath, that you didn't, well, again, we already have the intelligence. We already know all the problems. We know the history and all that. I even knew that there was sadness inside of me. I just didn't know how to access it. And even more, I didn't know how to clear it. And then that day, it was like a vacuum cleaner. It goes and just pulled it out, because I think spiritually I knew I was ready. I knew that I didn't, you know, that even the sadness was getting in the way for me as an actor, because I could go into that feeling, but I couldn't move it, you know, meaning I couldn't express it as an actor. It was just kind of like a weight. And then once it cleared, then I was able as an artist to work with sadness a lot more fully and more deeply. So
I read your book. I like it because it's very practical, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
You said read and then work, and read and then work. It's very, and I like it, but tell me, what is, because the spiritual teacher, when I hated it before because I didn't believe. I was thinking, you know, they teach me to think, even like actor, analyze. That time in my past.
Yeah.
And whenever, you know, I want to tell you, when sometimes I get a role and I did it, you know, like I was born.
Yeah.
It was just writing for me. And whenever I read the text, this feeling I have when I read, it's in the end, we can walk, we can talk about, but I have this in the end, it showed that I have this feeling, the same feeling in the beginning.
Yeah.
But there was so many analyze, and they pushed me in this analyze. So I hate feelings. That I was all the time, because I'm blonde, you know.
Yeah.
Everybody said, "Yo, you're blonde. You're so stupid."
Yeah.
Smiling, you know, acting this, and I want to show everything what I have feeling inside.
Yeah.
And that was really как се рече, sumničal, talking about destroy so many good actors, because they force us to do just with the brain.
Yeah.
And when I was in the stage, I can feel it so many things, you know, with the audience. They said that's not true, you know. And sometimes I have this feeling that I'm walking on the stage and I can feel the air, you know, like it's come, like doing like that. They said, "Oh, you are maybe you drink too much or something like that." But now it's, thanks God, the life is very extraordinary. So now the time is now much better. But you read in this book something very different, like this teacher said, you teach discipline also. I like this very much, you know.
Yeah, but you said say it again. You teach what?
Discipline that you must reverse, you know, discipline. Other spiritual teacher, we just it's also too much, you know, just somebody will make instead of you. But
Yes.
no, you said you need discipline,
Yes.
and you must do it step by step, and then you can feel it, become
Yep.
free, recognize you, yourself.
Yes.
Why is the discipline is so important?
Well, kind of with many spiritual traditions, when you first enter, it's, whoa, you have maybe a big experience when you learn to meditate, when you learn to do anything, but, it levels off and people stop, or they be like, I don't get those big experiences anymore. And what I tell people, it's like going to the gym and working out. Some of the most important days are when you go to the gym and you feel you don't want to do anything, but you still do a few chin-ups or a few things, and those build, character and self-esteem and value. Exchange, that word I use a lot. I don't know how you pronounce it in Slovenian, but
Izmenjava.
Yes, but anything, as my dad used to always say, like anything worth having, you probably got to put some work into it and earn that understanding of it. And, breath work is just the tool to quiet the mind and help people get into that sacred space of a deeper experience, within themselves. And that's what I always try to teach people, that it's not the analyzation of it. It's not even necessarily, some preface, or expectation. It's the experience. It's the experience that's so, important. Just like, as an actor, the main acting teacher I studied with, he was like, he didn't believe in figuring things out. He believed in, trusting and getting into the moment and opening up and experiencing the other actor, or experiencing the situation. And that, he was mainly film oriented. So the camera would do a lot of the work, zooming in and capturing the subtlety of your process versus, the thought. The thinking isn't as fascinating on screen as experiencing a person making these deeper choices, and especially, you being able to feel their process, being able to feel their emotions on those subtle levels. That's why, to me, movies are so interesting. And I felt it. I mean, when I would be, if I was working on a movie and they were shooting, certainly in the old days with a 35 millimeter big, I would feel the camera go inside of me. If I, opened up, it would look like I could feel it penetrating me, that I didn't need to do much, that I just needed to be present. So
this is also the difference of young people think that acting is just showing. It's
right. No,
it's not like that. But what do you think? What has happened with this discipline? Because we actors are we have rehearsal. We can feel it the way we step every day, every second, every millimeter. And also something very special. I think what you talk also about working in group. When you're acting on the stage with your colleagues, you cannot do it just by yourself. You must feel it, everything. You must cooperate, otherwise it's nothing. Is it like that?
Yeah, it's a big thing. I'm actually communicating to so many people these days, whether I'm mostly working online with them, but to me, that deeper commitment that's necessary, I think, on the planet right now is cooperation and choices to peacefully coexist, and not, certainly in our country with the leadership we've had the last few years, the whole projection and you, it's like, no, we got to look at we and us, and make choices, to cooperate and get along and see, how we're all really alike, more so than how we're different, so.
It is. Tell me also, what is this? I already asked Borut, what is this? Now they teach us breathing, so many. I already tried 5 or 3, 4, 5, like we don't know to breathe or something like that. But tell me, what is this? So many different breathing.
Different types, yeah.
Types of breathing, yes.
I mean, what this guy Tim, he told me when he came to me, he said, it's pranayama yoga, that I taught him in India. And so I've never been to India, but what I've noticed so when he said, I'm not your teacher, I still needed to look at the way he worked with the breath. And the funny thing is, he was probably a little bit, or maybe a lot, dyslexic. So a lot of times, if a person couldn't get the breathing rhythm in, I mean, literally from day one, these people that were coming through me, so I would introduce them. He'd say, oh, just come on in the room and stay in here. Well, a lot of times he couldn't get people breathing, so he'd be like, David, get them breathing. And so that's where I started just gently touching the body and, breathing with a person. And slowly I put together what I would consider to be this style, which, I've never done other breathing techniques, so I don't know, but based on how people describe them to me, how I look at, whether people are breathing in ice baths, or they're breathing for 3 hours, or they're doing all these other techniques. Like what I tell people, we're not looking for peak experiences. We're not messing with the breath. We're not, doing breath retention. I don't want you to hyperventilate. Really what we're doing, the premise is getting enough oxygen in the lungs, bloodstream, triggering, making its way to the brain, triggering the hypothalamus gland, slowing the brain waves and thoughts down so that a person can connect to their heart. So the whole, again, basis, foundation of the work, the way I teach it, is really to help people get in their heart. As soon as they get in their heart, then that connection to the vibration starts to occur. As soon as people start to feel their hands or their face or different parts of their body tingling, I recognize that as their spirit starting to be breathed into the body, starting to move with the body, move within the body, the nervous system, as opposed to if we tried to analyze it scientifically and start to look at carbon dioxide, oxygen, tetany, all these different things, then we end up with this linear description that's, kind of back to thought. And when I refer to, when the heart's open and spirit's moving, then it's totally unique to that person. It's nothing about it is the same. Everything about it, changes, shifts, moves, unique to what the person needs. So how I distinguish, a little bit more is I find that happens usually in about 8 to 10 minutes, and then up to 15 minutes, that experience is moving in people pretty profoundly. So I would say, well, I don't know that we need to breathe longer than 30 minutes. I mean, it's a rare day that I would ever have somebody breathe longer than 30 minutes because it's not really necessary. Most of the time, people self-regulate once they move through whatever they need to move through as the experience. They kind of, relax into that homeostasis of the vibration. Most people these days are running fatigued and exhausted. So one of the biggest necessary byproducts is that people relax and that their body just kind of infuses itself with energy, and they start to regenerate and recharge their cells or their batteries, again, I know and it's breath work or breathing is becoming so popular that, again, people are doing more and more things with it. To me, it doesn't need to be catchy. It doesn't need to have lots of unique nuances. I just say, hey, if you just breathe, the way I'm showing you, it can kind of more be almost like exercising, going up steps or lightly jogging. I mean, another thing in LA, a lot of people are like, oh, I do the breath work on my spin cycle. I'm like, don't do it there, lay down, don't do it. Or for lawyers, their biggest thing, they're so busy. I mean, I've heard this from about 5 lawyers.
7 minutes also. 7 minutes meditation, with breathing. And David, I didn't really understand when I try it now. I understand what you're talking, because my feeling was really very strong. Did you see? And it's now I understand that reason why I ask you about the miracle of body, because I feel it all body. So in Slovene I would say, priporočam vam, da preberete knjigo, pa da seveda probate pri Borutu. Do you understand? You don't understand. You don't understand. But you will come to my TV show, huh? You will come when you will come.
Sure. Yes. Who knows with the world the way it is, but one of these days, I'm some of my best friends are over in that part of the world. So
after all these
after
things you'll die, this disappear.
Exactly.
You have also one big love. I'm Paul also. I live in a country yard. I have animals. I raise my flowers, my vegetables from the seeds to the end. So tell me how easily we touch our souls and our heart in the nature.
I mean, so I'm going to finish that thought I was talking about lawyers, because they're so in their head, so they like to do the breathing in the car, drive into the office, and I'm like, no, don't do that, because you might suddenly get really opened up and have a car wreck. So with nature, it's kind of the same thing. To me, nature's language, the way humans speak nature's language, is when we're in our hearts and we're not in our heads and we're present and the moment is expanded. Then nature finds us curious, because they realize, well, they're not going to run over me in the car and not even notice I'm there. They're aware of me. Nature, whether it's a little lizard or a butterfly, and that's back to what I said about peaceful coexistence. When we're taking in and valuing all life forms, we don't put ourselves more important or so, on our task that we run over everything else. So it's the same way. I mean, right now I have a crazy, beautiful garden here in LA, Always I'm growing food wherever I am, but I like to give the tomato plants compliments and tell them how beautiful they are, how feminine, and they just keep, you know, making more tomatoes. And the Swiss chard leaves are like this big, and they don't, you know, they just have compost on them. But just simply watering them and giving them a compliment, they flourish, you know. And it's kind of here where I live in LA. I mean, we're only 15 minutes, 10 minutes from downtown LA, but we're on top of this big hill. There's owls at night in the trees, hawks all day long, coyotes, bobcats, deer, you know, all around our house. So it's almost like we're in the country, even though we're in the middle of the city. And I think nature feels, you know, it feels the frequency of a safe haven, you know, of a place where it's recognized. So, you know, and luckily a lot of our neighbors are this way. So, you know, nobody's out trying to kill the coyotes, or, you know, they're running around, you know, like dogs, too many. But so for me, what I pay attention to, my therapist, you know, rather than going and talking to somebody, my therapist is what my feedback from nature. You know, that's where I go. You know, I'm always paying attention. So if I'm trying to process a feeling or have something that's eating at me, I'm going to spend a little more time in nature and be processing it with my energy, you know, going to the feeling of that maybe I would have feel if I already did 20 minutes of breathing, just turning that on and then asking nature to give me some feedback. Just as I was thinking that, a bright yellow butterfly flew right past the window, you know, and it's pretty instantaneous, you know, it happens like that. There's no time lapse, you know. That's kind of what I'm writing about in the later chapters on intuition. So
this is you see my hands, you see this is working hands.
yes,
I love to work in the
yeah.
earth, you know.
Yeah.
And I come from the town. I also 20 minutes out of Ljubljana, and I'm like stressed and everything. I open the door of the car, I feel it, oh my God, oh my God. And if I go to the earth, I go to like this, you know, because I feel it. I'm feeling really happy. And sometimes I feel, you know, how I cry because I'm so thankful that I can see this. And I feel that I'm just a part, 1 second in this big, beautiful world, you know. And tell me why, what is, when a lot of people forget this, that they don't have this open, what is this? Why we forget for the nature? We have everything there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've in the past, and I sometimes can still have a little judgment. You know, I was raised on the farm with nature, smelling the earth, smelling the rain, being grateful as the sun would come up, you know, noticing our crops growing, knowing that my dad is stressing because we need a rain, you know, and so the place where I've been, you know, a little judgmental at times can be what I sometimes call city people, you know, people, you know, and I had lots of cousins growing up that their parents who grew up with my parents, but they moved away and lived in the cities. When they would come to visit and they would get out of the car, they would say, okay, kids, go play with David or go play with the kid, but don't let them get you dirty. And my dad would be like, good luck, you know. And, you know, I'd take them back to this big grapevine growing in our farm that was huge. And it had these big, massive blackberries, not grapes, blackberries. And I would say, just pull them, you know, and put them in your shirt And then we'd start walking back, and I'd say, I'll race you to the house. And by the time we get back to the house, it would be dripping, and the parents would come out and go, oh my God, my aunt and uncle. And anyway, you grow up on a farm. My dad would always say, it's clean dirt. It's not like the city suet. And, he'd be like, it's clean dirt. It's okay. And so I learned, if I'm planting a garden, I'm going to smell the soil. If I'm making compost, I'm going to smell it, working, like you say, with my hands. I'm going to, when I'm planting seeds, I'm already seeing the grown plant with fruit on it, and giving it that exchange of consciousness and energy that I, like with my daughter, that, she may be almost 3 years old, but I can still, every time I touch her, see her, growing healthy and strong and happy. So to me, that's kind of the art of life, that we get to, never treat anything, treat a seed as living consciousness, the plant the same way as I would a person. I do eat some meat, but not as much, as I used to. And I'm okay eating a little meat, but I value plants just as much as, many animals. I mean, I love animals too, but I don't necessarily make this hierarchy if something has blood and a heart and all that it's necessarily any better than an aspen tree or, whatever. So, Borat knows.
I agree, because I really feel love when I saw my salad or I don't know, or cucumber, and I said, oh my God, you grow up so much. I talk, I feel it. And when I made it salad, I think that we eat this salad, we feel it, this energy and this miracle.
Yeah. It's my favorite thing to do is go pull fresh lettuce, some basil, some mint, herbs, some fresh tomatoes, come down, rinse them off, slice things up, put them in make the salad and eat them, 15 minutes later. And it's like, and then compost back things, give it back. Yeah. So once a farmer, always a farmer.
But I was born in the city, When I was 40, I fall in love. I have two sons, and all the time walking in the park in Ljubljana, in this park, and I said, and all the time, don't do this, don't do this. So I put everybody in the car, and we just drive. And so that's how I found my home. Wow. By my intuition.
Yes.
Imagine. You will come when you'll come to Slovenia.
Yes. But how far away do you live from Borat? How
20 minutes far from Ljubljana.
Oh, okay.
That's about the same distance as I do, but in the other direction. So
okay.
Less than an hour drive.
But in the wild. In the
woods.
There was nobody else. Beer, we have beer and bear we have, and wolf sometimes.
Wolf, yeah.
I have llamas, goats, chicken, donkey, pony, horse.
Yes. That's a good farm. Yeah.
Yes. And a great garden. And a lot of flowers.
Oh, yes. That's what I'm used to. Yeah.
So that we are 5 minutes. Yeah. So we are here because of you. I'm fall in love with your healing, and I was really good people. And now I tried in a practice also, and I really, it's amazing. So what you will tell to our audience? Why? What was the purpose? It's just love. What is your spiritual message for the people, for me, for Borut, for...
I mean, so my simple, practical, right, message is we can not only can, but we are responsible, I believe, to heal ourselves. That, we can take some tools, and that's where that discipline comes in. But if we practice, we can change ourselves and become free and empowered. And that's the intention in the book, is that it can become a little guidebook to help people set themselves free, that they don't need me, they don't need Borut, they don't even need you or whoever, that they can take some information. And the last thing I want is people to think they need to be tethered to me because I know some secret. I'm like, everything I know is in that book and another book I'm going to finish one of these days. But there's no secrets. It's, it's work.
This is the big secret, that is no secret.
There's no secrets. No. Yeah, exactly. But if you can have a practice where you can access, spirit, God, the universe, nature, whatever word a person's most comfortable with, and you can feel it. And also that phrase self-love, if you do that work, you develop the discipline, you can then start to learn how to love yourself. The world out there changes because you change inside. And that is that simple. And that's what the premise for that book is, if you can settle into valuing, loving yourself, feeling that, you can kind of pretty much heal, about anything. It may not be instantaneous if it's got itself deeply rooted on the physical level, but I've also seen people heal, some pretty difficult illnesses that maybe Western medicine didn't think they could, and I had somebody contact me about having some diabetes, early stages. And she's like, do you have any suggestions? And I go, well, and I thought of Borut. I'm like, I've seen and know that if you work at developing enough self-love, it's got a sweetness to it that probably can help the body feel the sugar it's looking for. So,
It's Borut.
Yes.
David, thank you very much. I'm sorry because I don't speak very good English, but I'm falling in love with you, with everybody, because I really want that everybody can feel it.
Yes.
This happiness, and also not to be too much sad when we are sad. We are sad. Just look at sad. To be sad. So
yes.
When I'm sad, I said, "Oh my God! Oh, again! I will. What is going? What I'm feeling? I'm sad. I'm poor. I'm sad. Okay." I said, 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes to be. Oh, I'm poor. I'm poor. Oh my God! 5 minutes. Finito.
Exactly. Well, that's the beauty. And, I have so many people that I told them to take an acting class 10 years, 15 years ago, because they were not in touch with their emotions. I said, just go take an acting class. And some of them are still acting today, like it's great. And, you can take an acting class anywhere, and it's going to be a cheaper form sometimes of therapy, but really let you exercise and work out your emotions. So, yeah.
Thank you very, very, very much, David.
Yeah.
When you will come to Slovenia?
I don't know. Next year I'll be going, if all goes well, in April to Portugal. So we'll kind of see. My wife is, her family's in Germany. So we have some stops and things, but when I come, I'll make sure Borut,
you will come with Borut to my farm. Yeah. You will do it in the middle of the nature.
That's right.
No great rehearsal.
That's right. I'll be like, I want to go to the farm.
Okay. Thank you very much. Dobrodošli vsi, ste razumeli? Ste, ne? Ja, jaz se vedno počutim kot otrok, ko zvem kaj lepega, ko se dotaknem, ko vidim človeka z odprtimi očmi in zaljubljenega v življenje. Hvala ti, Borut. In hvala ti, David.
Thank you.
Mi rečemo David, ne?
David.
David.
Thank you so much, David. So nice.
Yes.
Good, great feeling again, catching up again. So
Yes, awesome.
See you soon, man.
Okay, I'll see you.
Thank you, Papa. Ciao.
Bye.
Love it.